Hello, it's Kyle here, rambling in a closet with you yet again. Thanks for coming in with me. It is kind of a small closet, but we'll make room. And I was at work today. I've been back. It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm done with work. I'm about ready to play a couple of video games, and then I'm going to cook some really super-duper fancy salmon for the missus and I. And we're going to drink some wine and listen to music and have a jolly old night. This is technically my Friday night. I'm going to get one day off in a week, and this is the eve of that. So we're going to have some fun tonight with some wine. I can sleep in and nurse whatever. I don't really get hungover from wine, though, because I don't drink that much of wine. Anywho, I digress. I was at work today, engaging in a little bit of good old gossip. And I've always, for the past while now, I've had a problem with gossip. And I try not to engage with it as much as possible. But, I'm a human, and it's sometimes hard, especially if, we have this one coworker who isn't exactly agreeable to the majority of their other coworkers. And so, the gossip train is easy to, not in like a really terrible, mean-spirited way, but something will happen, and then we'll talk about the day later and be like, oh, yeah, isn't that weird? And then we'll move on. That's still gossip, in my opinion, though. You are speaking negatively behind someone's back, and you probably wouldn't say it in front of them, right? So it's not exactly the best practice to engage in, but we're human, and it's hard not to sometimes because we're highly social creatures, so we thoroughly enjoy that kind of what happened, one of the classic jokes is when there's this meme where the gal and the guy are talking to each other, and the gal is talking about girlfriend drama, and the guy is pretending not to be interested but really is interested because he wants to know what's going on. It's like, oh my gosh, she did what? And that sort of thing. And it's kind of like when a guy is secretly engaged in watching the gal's soap opera while also pretending to not be interested because it's starting to get juicy. Now, I'm not saying I engage in any of these behaviors, but if she's got something on and whatever I'm else doing is boring, then, there's that dramatic music in the background. They're all looking at each other shocked. Anyways, I digress again. So we're human. We err. And we engage in gossip sometimes, but it really is not a great thing to participate in, mostly because, you're kind of deceiving, or at least you're asking someone else to deceive for you, and you're doing it all behind someone's back in a way that disparages them and makes them look negative. Well, why is that a bad thing? I don't know. I was thinking about it today, and I've been thinking about it for a while, why gossip isn't a good thing, because we know it's not, and how we know it's not a good thing is we hide it. We don't tell people that we are gossiping. And if we were asked to describe what current activity we're engaging in, we would say either nothing or gossip, but in we're talking about this, and you're kind of shameful about it. And I was thinking of another reason why gossip wasn't a very good thing. If you decide that you want to stop lying, if you start to watch yourself, I don't know about you, but I used to be very bad about this. Even about things that didn't matter, it would just come out. It would just be whatever I wanted to tell to spin the story and to make the story more interesting, I would say. White lies or big mess. I'd make up stories. There was one story I used to, and this wasn't until rather recently where I stopped telling it for good, because it stopped being a funny, and it started just being an obvious lie that I would tell people. And the story was, I got my finger cut off when I was 3 years old. That's a true story. I still have a little stumpy finger on the very tip that's cut off. But what I used to tell people is that I kept the end of my finger in the freezer, and it shriveled up and looked like a grape. And then I would trick my friends into eating the grape in front of them, and they thought I ate my dried up finger because I would tell them that it was my dried up finger. I would tell this story, and everybody would laugh, and ha ha ha, isn't that funny? And then whatever. Never happened. I cut my finger off, but that was it. Never did the rest of it. And I would watch myself tell the story, obviously just liking the attention and I enjoy being funny, and making a joke about myself. So it's only 85% selfish. The rest of it is true altruism. I'm just doing a service. But it was a lie. And so I've since stopped telling it because it's not a very it's just a lie. It's technically harmless, right? But you're still making something up. You're still lying. You're still engaging in deceit. You are tricking this person into believing something about yourself that is never happened. And if they were ever to discover the lack of reality behind the story, they might question whatever else you say in the future. They go, well, if he's willing to lie about that silly story, if he's just going to make it up, what else is he going to lie about? And in my own mind, I know, well, not much, really. I'm actually a pretty honest dude, or at least I try to be. And just that me telling that story never really was proof to me that I was a liar. It was just a fun story that got some laughs, and, you know, it made people look at me funny, or in a positive light, right? Like I was some clever dude. I obviously made up the story, so I at least am 40% clever, because I made up the story. I just wasn't that clever when I was younger. I just never did it. I regret that now. And maybe, you know, it's funny, maybe I should go and do it now. Freeze a raisin, put it in the freezer, act like I've been holding it there for the past, 23 years, and then eat it in front of someone. And then I can tell the story, because it's true. Maybe that's funny. So anyways, when you decide to stop lying, I had this voice in my head, and it really started picking up in my late teens, early 20s. And I guess early 20s, to be fair. I was still pretty bad about it later on, 18, 19. But when I hit 20, 21, 22, I started paying attention. And it sounded like this voice saying, you don't believe that, and you're lying, and that's not true. Stop saying that stupid stuff. You're just saying it to get attention and to, be cool. And that voice would get louder and louder and louder, and I would have a hard time combating it. And, compared to where I was that long ago, 5 years ago, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty, I really do not lie. I mean, I actually think about this a lot. And when it comes to like my fiance, I never lie to her. I need to get better at delivering the truth in a less obnoxiously unempathetic way. I should get better at that. But at least I don't lie. If she asks me what I think about the dress, I go, nah, not a big fan. She'll be like, why? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, I don't like it. But she also knows that it's not like I'm going to be upset with her if she then decided to wear the dress. She simply asked for my opinion, and I simply gave it. If she had never asked, I would have never said anything. Unless it was that terrible of a dress, in which case I'd be like, sweetheart, maybe not. But, I'll get into trouble this way as well. She'll be watching a movie, and she'll say something about the actress and say, don't you think so? And I'll go, no. I don't know how else to say it, right? I'll just go, no, or I'll be somewhat not nice about it. I'll go like, ugh, no, I don't like, whatever the thing might be. And that, I'm getting better at delivering it in a more effective manner, but I won't lie just to save face and just to make things easier. There's this funny, weird thing. There's this malaise that feels like it's out there in society where it's okay to lie to your significant other, just the white lies, just to get by. Just to make her happy. It's like, nope. I don't see how that works long term. Because you're leaving the door open to lie bigger. You're okay if lying to a certain extent. There's now a line. See, this is the problem with drawing lines yourself. Is we're not very good at drawing lines. We're fine at drawing lines, but we're also very good at convincing ourselves that the line should be in a different position once we've already drawn it, right? And drawn it, yeah. And so we'll draw a line and say, I'm only going to lie whenever she asks me if the dress looks good. And then a situation comes up, and she's like, well, how does this makeup look on me? You go, oh, crap, okay, I got to add that in behind the line of things I can lie about. And then maybe when you're driving home, or no, when you're at work, maybe like one of your coworker hits on you and like flirts with you, and you go home and you're not going to mention it. You're not going to hide it, but you're not just going to go out and say, oh, guess what happened at work today. But then she let's just say she specifically asks you, hey, anything interesting happened at work today? And the first thing that comes to your mind is the flirty coworker, and then you consciously think, I'm not going to mention it. At that point, it's bubbling, it's verging on a lie. I don't really believe in lies of omission, but if you are consciously not saying something in an attempt to not bring it up, it's pretty close to being a lie. I see that now. And so then if you don't say, well, now you're kind of drawing that line in a different place. You're saying, you know what, I'm not going to, maybe I won't lie about it, but I'm not going to mention these occasions when they happen. So you're just changing the line all the time. And so really the only line you can draw is not one. You just don't draw a line and you say lying is always bad, period. There's always exceptions, and those exceptions are being, obviously, let's say you're being captured, like lying to an evil person, obviously. But we're not talking about those exceptions. I think you and I can both agree on that. Whenever I'm speaking generally of day-to-day life. And generally, in day-to-day life, lying is always bad. Always. 100%. It's never good. And this is why I decided to stop doing it, or at least start really watching myself and get a lot better at delivering these white lies. And to bring it all back to where I started, gossip is one of those occasions where if you decide to stop lying, you have to necessarily stop gossiping, because you are taking lying to be a bad thing. And then when you're gossiping with someone, there's this underlying agreement that both parties, or however many parties are engaged, agree to, that what is said in the gossip circle is not going to be told to the person that is being gossiped about by anybody in the gossip circle, right? Like, you're not gossiping about someone with the knowledge that they're going to go straight to the other someone and tell them. And if you are, you're trying to engage in some kind of manipulative thing. But I'm just speaking of just plain gossip. And so you're essentially asking someone to lie for you, and you're also telling them that you will lie for them if you're ever asked, like for whatever reason you're asked by the person you're gossiping about, whatever. Let's just say the person you're gossiping about sees you in a group huddled up and they have no social skills, so they point blank ask you, "What were you talking about me?" Which actually happens. And then of course you're going to say no. Or you know what, if you're willing to, okay, all right, well, I guess if everybody agrees that you're going to tell the truth, then gossiping becomes more acceptable. However, it's still not acceptable, because if you're going to gossip, you might as well bring the person in on it and let them know what their behavior is that is so disagreeable, right? And if you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't be spreading negative vibes about a person, and you should just shut the hell up and keep it to yourself. And not spread the wildfire of gossip, because once everybody knows everybody else doesn't like this person, it's a lot easier to not like them more. And, gosh, I'm off on a tree branch again. You are, when you're gossiping, you're insulting someone, kind of. Because you're only ever really going to say, like, you don't get into a gossip circle and say good things about people. And if, like, it never happens. And if it does, this is the context. You're just hanging out, and for whatever reason, someone comes up and you go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I really like working with them. They're great." And the other person goes, "Yeah, I know. I love how they do the X, Y, and Z." And you go, "Yeah, I know. X, Y, and Z is great. And this and that and the other." Whatever. You wouldn't be embarrassed, or you wouldn't hide it from the person you're gossiping about. So you're not gossiping. You're just talking and giving compliments. But gossip is specifically, you know what? I'm actually going to look it up real quick. I'm not supposed to do this because this is technically going against the whole improvise thing. But it would be nice to have the definition of a word that I'm using available. So I'm just going to Google it real quick. Definition of gossip is rumor or talk of a personal, sensational, or intimate nature. Trivial, chatty talk, or a person who habitually spreads intimate or private rumors or facts. And there is that aspect of gossip that's also pretty terrible, is unless all of the people in the gossip party all witness the same activity, usually you're enlightening someone about something that happened the other day. You are spreading this negative fact about someone to someone who otherwise wouldn't have known it. And I've seen this happen before, whether it be at the Red Lobster I worked at, or at the radio station I used to work at, or even at the current job I work at. You say something negative about something to someone, and that's someone who did not know this negative thing about the other person. They go, huh, gosh, I kind of always thought they were all right, but wow, if they really did that, that's really not good. And you realize that what you're doing is you are witnessing something, using your own personal bias to then articulate that to another person, so they're getting secondhand information. This person you're talking to is not watching it happen themselves. They're hearing it from you, which is not a very reliable source sometimes. We are not very good with memory, especially if we already have biases about what we're witnessing. For instance, you watch someone draw a 6, but you're watching it from the opposite point of view, so you see it as being drawn as a 9. It's that kind of thing. There's a little bit of bias, unless you're aware enough to know that you're watching it upside down, of course. So you're spreading this negative thing that didn't. You are allowing something to exist. You are spreading the fire. You are not taking the oxygen out of the room. You're actually putting newspaper in the room, and you're doing so with your own free will. You didn't have to bring up the gossip. You just had nothing better to do. And then you looked over to the person next to you and go, so, you want to hear what so-and-so did the other day? And it feels good. I don't know why it feels good. I wonder why it feels good. I wonder what part of us is biologically programmed to feel good about sharing, rumors and, intimate knowledge about another individual. I wonder what that is. Because, of course, we had to know about each other, when we were tribal, nomad, small civilization kind of peoples, small groups of 200 or less. You want to know about everybody around you, so I guess it helps. So maybe there's this incentive to keep on talking about stuff. But, nowadays, obviously if you're in a work environment where someone is behaving toxically and everyone knows it, and maybe you want to warn someone, hey, I don't want to bias you too much, but if this individual does this around or to you, this is what you should do in return, and this is what we've discovered as a solution. Maybe that's acceptable, but even so, I've seen it done poorly so many times, including at my job right now. I've had so many individuals come up to me and tell me something about another person, warning me. And this is the excuse. They say, hey, I'm just letting you know in case it happens. And it's never happened in the past or after they've told me this warning. Why would you do that to me? Because now you're making me suspicious of this other person where otherwise I wouldn't have been. It would have been a perfectly pleasant relationship, but now you've dirtied that in my mind. Even though I could totally accept that you're just making crap up, there's still going to be this little nugget in the back of my head now that makes me go, ugh. And I've had a really nasty situation in the past where I was told something really gnarly about someone and I believed it and treated that person with a little bit more apathy and lack of empathy. And then I heard later down the road that it was totally wrong and that the person that I was treating less, I wasn't being an ass to them, but I was definitely treating them less friendly than I would otherwise have. I learned that this story was completely wrong, and it was a rumor, and it was totally taken out of context, and this individual just kind of had to live with it because he knew that other people were spreading this rumor about him, and there's nothing he can do about it because he can't just go and say it's not true because then they're not going to believe him, and so he just has to live with it. Whereas I actually was curious, looked into it, and some other person told me, oh yeah, no, that never happened, yada, yada, yada. It's the classic example of a rumor that wasn't true. But, when you see it happen versus when you see it happen in a TV show, it's a different context because you really see the effect it has on an individual. You don't see the sitcom aspect of it where people are laughing in the background, or you don't see the dramatized version of it for TV. You see the real-life impact that a lie can have on someone. And I've been that person too. Not only have I been the person spreading the false rumor, I've also been the person where the false rumor was spread about. And let's talk about karma. I don't remember which one came first, but reverse karma. There's this great line in this great book that says something along the lines of, judge not, or you too will be judged. Judge in one way, and that way is the way you too will be judged. It's this, and by the way, it's not necessarily saying don't judge. I don't think so. What it's saying is that if you are judging someone in a negative way, then that is how you will be judged as well. But if you're judging someone in a positive way, then that is how you will too be judged by your peers, is in a positive way. They'll help you overcome some things that they see wrong about you. So it's judge kindly, and you too will be judged kindly, that kind of thing. Whereas if you judge like a jerk, you too will be judged like a jerk. What comes around goes around is a better way of looking at it, but I like the biblical saying. It's a little bit more cool, better sounding. And it really is unfortunate when you see and or feel what happens when a lie is out there and exists about you. It's crippling, especially now. When you're an adult, you can get over it, obviously. I'm kind of speaking more of like a kid or a teenager or maybe like a young adult. It's kind of hard, especially if it's affecting your social circle that you act. Like if it's in your workplace, it kind of sucks. As an adult, you have hopefully sometimes, maybe not nowadays, but you should have in your social arsenal and social toolkit, you should have the tools necessary in order to get rid of a false rumor. And part of that toolkit is patience and only ever defending yourself if attacked, and not just going at it and saying, oh, by the way, I know this rumor is going around and it's not true. You got to be a little more couth about it. But it works, and if you can do it, it works. It actually works in your favor, because if they ever come to you, I'm totally on a different train of thought here. It's just not a pleasant experience, and it's really kind of a terrible thing to do. I mean, think about it. Can you imagine the state of mind you have to be in to lie about someone that you work with to someone that you work with in order simply to just what? Cause drama, cause problems. It's a jerk thing to do, man. And the less we engage with it, the better. And even if there is someone worth gossiping about, why not try to improve them? I feel like when you gossip about someone, you are forsaking them. You're giving up on them. You are saying they're not able to be fixed and come back to reality and act like a normal human being. So instead, I'm just going to commentate on their behavior and get humor and dopamine from the act of gossip. That's what I'm going to do. So they're gone. I feel like you're giving up on someone when you start gossiping about them. Whereas maybe otherwise you could go to them and say, hey, I saw you do this. I don't understand why you did it. To me, and I imagine to a lot of other people, it comes off in this negative way. Help me understand. And they might argue with you, and they might get defensive, but they'll leave. And as long as you stay calm and cool and you go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, man. I just, I guess I misunderstood. Just asking, just curious. It's all good. Don't worry. You walk away, and they might be thinking now. They think about it. It's in their head now. What they do with it from then on is up to them, but you're giving them the chance to rectify it before continuing on. And even then, it takes a long time to learn how to dance. It takes a long time to figure out something, especially if you're older and you have all of these traumas and behavioral aspects of yourself built in for so long, and no one's bothered to try to help you because they see you and they go, oh, well, whatever. They're long gone. I'm not even going to bother. And I'm not going to get into an potentially aggressive situation to try to fix someone who I don't care about in the first place. I mean, there is that, right? You don't want to cause conflict. You don't want to be in that situation. So screw it. No way am I going to cause a fight just to try to, tell this person they're doing something wrong. I'm not going to engage in that activity. No way, no how. It's not fun. I'm not pleasant. I don't know how to articulate myself that well, so no. But maybe you should get better at articulating yourself. And if someone's activities bother you to the extent that makes you want to gossip, but also in a way that they irritate you, in a way that you don't understand why it irritates you, and therefore you can't articulate it to them and talk to them about it, well, maybe it's something wrong with you. And then if you go on and gossip about it, well, that's even worse of you, because you're taking your own biased interpretation of reality and spreading it on to other people without their permission, by the way, because they don't know what you're going to talk about before they say it. That's another thing about gossip. when you're talking to someone, they don't know what you're about to tell them. And they can't properly be, in a funny way, it's like they can't consent to the dirtifying you're about to do to their brain or to their interpretation of someone else. It would be funny. Hey, I'm about to tell you something really negative about this person. They go, okay. I mean, sure, that actually happens sometimes. Hey, I'm about to tell you something, but you can't repeat it anymore. And they go, okay. Whereas, you know what? I think we should get in the practice of saying no. If someone, and I've done this before, and it's been highly successful, and I've gotten some credit from people for doing it. They'll come up to me and say, hey, you know what? You got to check this out, but hey, you can't tell anybody I told you this. And I go, don't tell me that. As in, don't tell me what you're about to tell me then, because I am not going to promise you that I'm going to lie for you. You know, I'm not going to actively go and tell someone about this, but if someone asks, what am I going to do? Say I don't want to answer that question? I mean, that's pretty honest right there, but it's very obvious why I'm saying that. You're essentially asking me to potentially lie, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to engage in that. And I've said no. Sorry, yeah, I said, oh, then you probably don't want to tell me that because I don't want to be in that circle. And they went, huh, all right, and they got it, and they actually, said nice things about me later because I said that. Gosh, where was I going? So yeah, I mean, gossip is like, it's negative to you because you are engaging in a kind of negative behavior. It's negative to the person you're gossiping to because you're filling their head with these biased encounters of reality without their permission sometimes because they don't know what you're about to say. And it's bad for the person you're gossiping about because of course it is, because now there's negative things being flown around about them that they have no control over or no knowledge of, and therefore no way to combat it, and also no way to change their negative behavior because they don't know they're going wrong because you're not telling them. It's kind of rude, right? It's kind of a jerk move, I think. And by the way, I'm not perfect. I was just doing it today at work. I caught myself. I was watching myself gossip at work. And I was like, good God, Kyle, you know better. But I was already in it. And it's hard not to sometimes engage in gossip because the other people do it. And you don't want to be that snob that goes, oh, you know what? I'm above this. I don't gossip. I am better than all of you. Because if you're really not good at articulating yourself, that's what can happen. You can say, oh, you know what? I just don't feel like gossiping. And then they can think, oh, what? Are you better than us? And then the natural answer is, I'm trying to be. Trying to be better than myself. And that can be a little stingy to the people who are engaged, because I think most people know when they're engaging in something they shouldn't, and then when you call them out on it by saying that you're not going to engage in it, of course they're going to get defensive. They might look at themselves and go, oh, good point. Yeah, I guess we shouldn't do that. And sometimes they do. What's funny, I was gossiping with someone. No, I don't want to say gossip. I was saying something unprofessional with another person who was saying something unprofessional, and what's funny is about 5 minutes later, he walks up to me and says, hey, Kyle, I think we should be a little more careful about what we talk about. And I immediately knew what he was talking about, and I went, yeah, you're right. You're right. We should, yeah. And we both kind of, mentally shook hands on it and went on our, and then we never talked about it again. It was a perfectly healthy encounter. It was like, you know what, we probably shouldn't talk about that anymore. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, great. So I'm not saying everybody's going to take it personally, but, there is a way to do that. Let's just say you're at work. And something comes up, you're sitting there, and they go, your coworker goes, okay, so check this out. So this person was, and then you should stop them right then and go, oh, hold on. If this is something, I understand what you're trying to do, and I know I've engaged with this in the past because we both all kind of don't like this individual, but I'm really trying to, improve myself, and I know that if I was this other person, I wouldn't want them to speak negatively about me to my coworkers. So just in the sense of the golden rule, I really would like to try to not engage. And I understand and then they might push you. And by the way, they will push you if they feel bad about themselves. They'll go, oh, come on, I just want to tell you this story. It's something bad. I go, and then you can go, well, no, I understand. And it might not be, but I wasn't there to see it, and that person isn't here to correct anything or agree with anything you're saying. So really, it's just best if I really think it's best if we don't talk about it. No offense. I mean, not saying anything negative about you. This is just my own thing I'm trying to do. And you know what? If this other person you're talking to is a kind person, they'll back off and they'll go, okay, all right, you're right. Good point. But you'll get some pushback sometimes. The classic example a classic example is if like let's just say you're in a kind of group of friends and you kind of have all given up on school, and then you watch this documentary that makes you want to be a paleontologist, and so you think, oh, I guess I actually have to go to school and get good grades, and so you start studying, and then all your friends go, what are you doing? Why are you studying? What, you think you're better than us? You think you can go start getting good? You can start getting good at school? Is that what you want to do now, weirdo? I'm coming up on half an hour. I think you get the idea. Gossiping is a no bueno. And it weakens our soul. I really do think that. It stops us from being able to reach out our hand to other people and try to help them. And it just makes us into some gossipy, unempathetic characters. Tell me what you think about it on the Twitter. It's at GKEI 2023. It's at Good Knowledge, Evil Ignorance, because that was the name of the podcast before this. But now it's called Rambling in a Closet. I think both of which will find me on the Twitter or on Facebook, Rambling in a Closet. This is Kyle doing just that. Thanks again for listening. Comment all you want. I want to hear what you think because I want to have something to talk about other than whatever floods through my head. And because the listenership is kind of exclusive right now, I think is a better way of putting it, I would love to have you on and chat with you over Zoom or whatever, and whatever you want to talk about. I love talking. I realize that I really just genuinely like talking to people about whatever. I mean, obviously it has to have some element of interest in there, so we're not just going to talk about the weather, but, you get the point. Anyways, have a good day. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. I am going to go cook some salmon.